#1 desirable. I do what I want when I want and how I want it. Leave you with the one in the air, that's how I roll. I got tons of soul, I'm a true collectible. Famous, also famous, #1 desirable. I do what I want when I want and how I want it. Leave you with the one in the air, that's how I roll. I got t-shirts, so I don't care about no gold. Better, so much better, flipping incredible. Always on the show, so they know that I still got it. And I never feel sorry, yeah, at top of the world. At top of the world. Yeah, at top of the world. At top of the world. Yeah, at top of the world.
Hey guys, I'm Sam. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation, the home of our originally created series, My Story. This is now the third series, and what I love about this series is no matter what, everyone has got a story to tell, and I'm looking forward to getting stuck into another series of people's stories. But very quickly, a bit of housekeeping. As you all know by now, Ace Podcast Nation, home to many great shows and series, all original content featuring top guests, expert analysts, and more. So do give us a follow on social media, subscribe to that YouTube channel, and click the bell for notifications. Does help us out a lot. Drop a like, helps us move up the algorithm against all the bigger channels, as it were. But and of course, you can get the audio versions of every show through the Sports Social Podcast Network as well. But my story, should I say, is a series which is unique as we take our guests through their life, their careers from birth, upbringing, all the way to present day, as they share stories and anecdotes. Across the two series so far, we've had actors, footballers, broadcasters, authors, filmmakers, podcasters, fighters, and more. Series 3 will be absolutely no different. The tagline is simple: real conversations with real people. It's their story and their words. And kicking off this series is going to be a phenomenal episode, as my guest today is the host of the Central Club podcast. It is Cullan Mais. How are you, mate? Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I'm really honoured, privileged, being the opening guest for Series 3. Looking at the intro then, at some of the guests, are they the ones you've had on the previous season?
Yeah, that's most of them. There's a couple missing from that I got to add in, but that's the majority of them so far for these first two series. Guests. Yeah, it's a range of people, mate, as well, which is what I like. Like, we've had all sorts of people, like from like test cricketers and authors, former football hooligans, you know, whatever it may be. Like, and what I like, sort of what I said there, like, I like everyone's got a story. Don't matter what you do. Yeah. I had a friend of mine from Danes Court, who obviously, like, we're going to talk about now. Like, me and you come from literally down the road from each other, and but we didn't realize that until 5 minutes ago. But like, I had my mate on who had I used to play football with him when I was younger. Like, I used to go out drinking with him and stuff. And he's gone on. He had a full-on mental health crisis a few years back, and then he's sort of come back. He's written a book, and he's doing he's a DJ in a hospital and stuff like that. And he's kind of turned it all around. But like, it was, whether it's him or whether it's like someone who might be more familiar or famous to people, I find it really fascinating just to kind of hear people's stories and that. But we just found out just before the show started that the flat which me and my missus used to live in when our kids were younger, I moved out of it and you moved into it. Basically, there may have been someone in between, but it's very unlikely, judging by like the time. And that is, I gotta say, mate, that is mental. Yeah, that's the case. Like,
I hope there was someone in between. Otherwise, your decor is terrible.
Well, mate, yeah, well, there you go, isn't it? That's it. Surprised there wasn't holes in the wall, and I know my kids. But
it's crazy, isn't it? It is mad.
Small world, mate.
You know, from the same kind of area, both doing a podcast as well, which is mad. I know we've been doing it much longer, but good breeding ground for speakers, I think.
Yeah, either that, or they would just breeds people who can talk a lot of shit. I don't know. One or the other.
You shouldn't say that.
No, I know. No, you by shit, I mean talk constantly. I'm very good at that, mate. But no, mate, it's good to have you anyway. But like, what I like to do with this series is I do like take people sort of right back to the beginning, so they can just sort of bring people into what their upbringing was like, what it was, what it was like for you.
Yeah. Okay then. So so my name's Cullan Mais. I'm 30 years of age now. Just turned 30 in August. So I'm from Cardiff. I'm from the council estate of Pentrevane, Fairwater. Come from a great, a loving family. My mother and father basically gave me everything I ever wanted. I'm the oldest of two. I have a younger brother who's a very talented sportsman compared to me, who ain't as good. But yeah, growing up was great. I was born in Landock Hospital. Grew up in Fairwater, went to Pentrevane Primary. Was involved in every sports possible. My dad pushed me to everything. My dad was a footballer growing up, he and his father, my grandfather, used to coach Fairwater Sports, Fairwater Social growing up. They had a good team, so it was a very sports orientated family. And I was involved in the rugby, the football, baseball in the summer. Just anything really I could get stuck into. Some families, force their kids into stuff, but I genuinely did love sports. I weren't a bad rugby player, I weren't a bad football player. Primary school was great, not a shy kid, kind of a class joker, you could say. And then I went to Cantonian High School, which was the local high school. They say it's like it was the roughest high school. Like they say Fitzallen's bad, but everyone says like Cantonian's held up by a piece of chewing gum, which is, I think it still is. To be honest.
I think like the thing which always, whenever I drive past there, is like it just looks the same as it did when I used to go there to play football. I took one of my boys to play in a football tournament there probably about 5 years ago. And it was literally like the same as when I had gone there to play football 20 years ago, mate. So, but look, it's also produced a load of
great
international sportsmen, mate. People,
just
off the top of my head, you got like Jermaine Easter, played for Wales, didn't he, in football?
Joe Ledley.
Joe Ledley went there as well.
Joe Ledley, I remember when I was there, you'd have like your Hall of Fame sports stars. You had
of course,
who were black belts, like champions in Taekwondo. But I remember Joe with his mushroom bowl. Like I remember them days well. Like looking at these photos in order, these people, they're from the same area, But yeah, you had the Dutch barn there as well. We used to play like two-touch and cooler in the Dutch barn, and it was a swimming pool before that, which is crazy. But definitely, I think Fairwater is definitely a great area, a great breeding ground for talented sports people. It's been renowned to have a great, fierce rugby club and football over the years. Different years, I'd say. Some years probably not so good, but other years you look back and there were some great players and teams that have come up with that area. So I was always like heavily involved in that, and on a Sunday or a Saturday afternoon, I should say, I'd go and watch Fairwater men play rugby. And my dad, I remember my young days, I used to watch my dad. My dad was a pretty good footballer. Like I've had people still come up to me now and say, "Oh, your dad was like Glenn Hoddle on the field. Like you got to touch like Glenn Hoddle." You look at my dad now; he's more like Glenn Wobble. He's massive. You know what I mean? But I remember they had a team called Hannon Wanderers. So I was born on Bishop Hannon Drive. So you used to have Bishop Hannon School, and then when that got knocked down and put into a new estate, I was literally basically born there. I was there from when I newly arrived. My mum was only 19. My dad was 21. My dad was from Pentrevane Road, and they got a flat up there. And then they started a Sunday league team then called Hannon Wanderers, and their home pitch was Holy Family. And I like the memories of them days are just amazing. I remember half time winning the oranges on the pitch and stuff, and I just going in the changing rooms at the beginning with the smell of deep heat and all. I just used to love it. Scents bring back memories.
Is awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Love it,
I definitely came from a sporting background. Massive Liverpool fan, still am.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Listen, if I weren't, I probably would have been disowned. So it is what it is. But yeah, you know, my dad involved me in everything, and like I remember as a young kid, I big Cardiff fan as well. You know, I remember like them evenings, you know, being beat 3-1 by Brentford in Division 3. Like there's like 10 people in the Bob Bank, and I'm one of them playing two touch with a can of Coke. Like I just remember them days. Like we'd always, like, if there was something on, he would get me involved and stuff. So always been a big fan of football and rugby. And then, like, yeah, when a Cantonian, started playing myself at a decent level of. I've only played for Danes Court football. I weren't the best footballer. I was quite slow, to be honest. If I had a bit more pace, you know, I had a touch on me, but I weren't a great footballer. I was more rugby when I played for. I started in Fairwater, but they didn't have much of a good setup for juniors at that time. When I played for Canton. And then from Canton, I went and played a bit more serious at Glamorgan Wanderers. We had a great team and beat them for 3-4 years. I remember we went up to play Bath Rugby Club, and at the time we had Andy Robinson, who was the England coach. We had his son playing, so he was there, and we battered them, and they were a good, obviously Bath Rugby Club. They obviously got a good setup, you know. So in the summers, then I played baseball for Wales. I was base one. I was Fairwater. We grew up. The baseball team, my dad coached us. We were unbeaten as like under 15s, 16s, and then we went into men's. We then set up a men's Fairwater B team, and I got picked to play. Went up to Liverpool to play twice up there, which was really good as a summer sport. But at that time of my life is when I started to like discover things, and so like when I was a young kid, like I was a very homely person, very like when it comes to like staying over friends' houses and stuff like that. Like they'd always stay over my house. If my dad's the coach, they'd have everyone at the house, but I would never really stay over their house. I'd make an excuse or something, and I don't know why. I just was just one of them kids who just like would cry and make excuses up. My belly's hurt and ring my dad to pick me up, like. And then like so when I was in like high school and stuff, you have this image then, don't you? You've got to. You know, you can't be that kid anymore. You can't be that baby. And you know, I was a good kid. Year 7, 8, and 9. They always, from what I remember, the rule was year 7, 8, and 9. You can kind of mess about. Year 10 and 11 is when you knuckle down for your GCSEs. It was the other way round for me. Year 7, 8, and 9. I never touched a cigarette. I take the mick out of people who smoke fags and stuff like that, and never went on the knock once. Never tried a drug really, you know. I'd have a bottle of cider on the weekends at the Dell, like, but you know, any of them, you know, smoking fags and stuff, it was a no-go for me. It was just a mixture of things that kind of led me on the path then of destruction, really. And one of them was my I am now later on in life diagnosed with severe OCD and ADHD, but at the time I didn't know what this was, and I used to like have to like do these rituals like which would come in my head, just like random rituals. And if I didn't do these things, then something bad would happen to myself or a loved one. Like, you know, my parents are gonna die if I don't do this. Like, and these things would be a regular occurrence, and they affected me massively to the point where it was blatant. And the boys used to take the mick out of me for like, I used to walk around the outside of a lamppost. I'd have to touch lampposts. I'd have to like, I'd like if I pick something up, I'd have to like tap it with my teeth, and I'd have to repeat words 4 times. Like it had to be like mad stuff, and I could not control it.
Yeah, but like now, like when you're telling me that, I would be like if you've seen like I don't know one of your kids doing something similar, or you saw someone now, you'd say straight away, oh, you got like OCD or something like that, or something similar, like because of the repetitive nature of it and because of what we know now. But like you're talking. Like
2004, 2002, 2003.
Yeah, see, it was only still, like mental health was still like it wasn't like what it is today, and I think sometimes people don't understand that. Like my oldest boy's got ADHD and stuff, and like before he kind of got diagnosed with it, mate, like he used to just have all these sorts of issues in school, which like when you look back on it. they weren't his fault. And I know people will say, like some people who watch that now will say, oh, it's fucking bullshit, blah, 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 blah. But I promise you, right, and to prove it, he used to be in and out of like trouble, excellent at sports. Whenever he was doing football and stuff, played for Cardiff, he was fine, great. And then all the way like up to year 7, he was like in and out of trouble. Year 7, and because he's big as well, kids would, and when you go up into year 7 as well, you have a mixture of all these primary schools, and particularly for boys, it becomes like this thing where it's almost like it's like a battle to achieve dominance, like, and who's going to be like, and because he was big, he was always targeted, and they always used to like gang up on him like 2 against 1 and all that sort of shit. And it was only when he fought back that they left him alone. But that's not so what I'm saying is, towards the end of year 7, he got diagnosed with ADHD, and then by year 8, he was kind of being sort of treated and helped with it and stuff. He's just done his GCSEs and he's gone back to sixth form, and he got like, I think 7 or 8 A-stars in his GCSEs. Now,
amazing.
You talk about, mate, when I was in school, when that help wasn't there, like what would have happened is I did progressively get in more trouble. So by the time year 10 and 11 come, like stuff happened to me. Like my dad died when I was 16, just as I was about to do my exams. But I was already before that smoking weed and getting into trouble and doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. But like the support and the help wasn't there. Whereas like obviously you're 10 years younger. It's 10 years younger. It was a bit better, like in terms of how mental health and OCD and things like that would have been viewed, but they still weren't able to pick it up like they are now. And like
it's like dyslexia in the 90s and 80s.
Yeah, mate, when I was in school, if you had dyslexia, you literally were just chucked into like the remedial class, and that was it. Like you were just left. And there's kids in there who've gone on. Some of the kids in my school who were in that class and literally written off because they couldn't like read or write that well have gone on to be some of the more successful people. They've got their own businesses and stuff like that. Like it's mind blowing the difference. And I do think sometimes people in their 20s now, they don't realize like quite how severe the difference is in how it like those things were dealt with. And like just very quickly, mate, even now though, there's teachers who think that ADHD is like just a bullshit excuse.
Yeah,
and I can promise 100% it ain't, because I've seen, and I was one of them, by the way. I was, when they first wanted to put my son on medication, I was like, no, fuck off. And I was like so against it. And it was only then when I kind of looked into it a bit, spoke to my missus and said, you know, and at the end of the day, he was struggling. So like, as soon as he had that, something just to level him out a little bit, he's gone on and excelled. Like, so who was the dickhead? Like, is it me? I think it was, because I was holding him back without meaning to, because of my ignorance around it. And
yeah, so you're not a dickhead then. You're not a dickhead because
it's ignorance, isn't it?
Would you say that? Would you say it's ignorance?
But it's not ignorance on
not
purpose.
Ignorance. It's like you. I think sometimes as well, you don't want to come to terms to it, do you? You don't want to come to terms.
I didn't at all. But
like my mum and dad, they were like, no. Like people would say, I think Cullen's got like OCD or like AD.
Yeah.
No, he's just a monk. Like laugh it off type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's
I know exactly what you mean, mate. But like, it's interesting. So like I've talked openly. Like I've had issues with like alcohol and gambling and stuff like that intermittently throughout my life, and like I had little periods like, so in my teenage years, like I don't want to talk about me too much, but like just because we quite like we live close together and then so like in my teens I was all about smoking weed, mate. That's all I did all day, every day, pretty much bunking off school and that. And then after that, because it gave me such bad anxiety and spun me out, that, and I had a couple of bad trips on mushrooms and stuff. And then I kind of just drunk then for a few years. And then then I just got bang into pills. And I done that for like a while. And then I kind of started doing a bit of coke and stuff like that. But like there was always like, for me, there always ended up being something which just, and I mean just, sort of swerved me away from going through some of the stuff which you went through. So, like, I can't, even though I've had, and I'd like to talk about it because I would, if I get anything which I've been through can help anyone, I'm happy, like. But I also, when I've heard like your story and certainly bits of it, I think, fucking hell, you know, like a sliding doors moment, or like just something like it's mental, mate. Honestly, it's like those little things which could have gone either way, and I count myself as lucky. It was luck rather than judgment, mate.
I think you need to count it as luck, because
it certainly wasn't judgment, mate. I can tell you that.
Well, you know, I if you look back at them times in school and you know, like, I was the type of person who I would hang around with the sporty boys, I'd hang around with the cool boys, I'd hang around with the smokers, I'd hang around with the moshers, I'd hang, you know, it was sections. If someone was getting bullied, I'd be sticking up for him, type of thing. And like at them times, like if you had a yearbook like they do in America, if it was like most likely to be, I don't know, something very good, it would have been me. I wouldn't have been most likely to be a heroin addict in and out of prison. I wouldn't have been that guy. It wasn't me. It was just, you know.
So you had, like, I think it's fair to say, you've got a loving family. You had a pretty good upbringing. Your parents, sounds like your dad did everything he could possibly do to keep you out of trouble and hanging around the streets. He was taking you to, you know, to watch Cardiff, play rugby, play baseball. You were doing stuff, you know, to keep you from maybe slipping into or hanging around the streets. Your parents, by all accounts, done a good job. Brought, you know, like, come from a good family and that. Like, where was that moment where you kind of veered off?
Yeah, so only now I've kind of looked back at it now, and I know why it went off, and they always say it's like, you know, a significant, when they always say there's a significant part of your life that's made you go to this, it's made you choose this, it's made you, you know, deal with this, something's happened. And whenever anyone used to say that to me, I used to think it has to be something massive, like you hear about people on drugs. Me as well, in that world, I've witnessed people who have been abused by the age of like 3 and 4. They're being abused by not just their family members, but by carers and stuff. I hear of their families being taken away. I hear about certain events that happen. Mine was never a plausible excuse, so I disregarded that. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
But I now know why, and it could be just the slightest of things, like you said, to easily be things. So mine were three things that made me go down that road. Number one was my mental health. Yeah, so I'll quickly just jump into that. Like, yeah, so my severe OCD got really, really bad, and I started to smoke weed, same as you. After a while, the weed turned into paranoia. My anxiety was 10 times worse then. So my OCD and anxiety was worse. Yeah. So I needed something else. I knew it helped, but then it stopped working because I was used to it. It just turned to anxiety. So I had to find another drug that would do that. So that's one of them. The second one is, like I said, as stupid as it sounds, but it weren't. In Fairwater, I grew up with everyone. Like, we all hung around together in the same age group. Me, myself, at the time, just being a lad, a young boy, I slept with one of my best mates. They weren't together, but they were school. They were all through school. That was them two together. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They weren't together for like a year, but I slept with my best mate's girl, basically. Not intentional. I was drunk and but I went and told him, and it didn't go down too well. And we had a real big, you know, you don't do that. And I've learned that now. I knew it was wrong then, but I had the excuse of just like, well, you haven't been together for long, and you know, it was that. So and then basically, if I wanted to hang on with one of the boys, he'd be there. So I had to take myself away from not just him, but the whole gang. Now, that was one of the most traumatic things for me when I look back now, because that stopped me going down the pub, the local pub, after rugby match. It stopped me going rugby. It stopped me like playing because he's there. We play on the same team, but we're fighting every day. When we see each other, we're fighting. No. So that was number 2. And number 3 was I had a family member at the time who was really heavy into drugs, and where he was in and out of prison all the time. It's sad to say that in society we look up to some people who do bad things, you know, if they're a drug dealer or if they're a hard man. We look up to them, don't we? So being 16, 17, it was 18, it was 17, 18 really when it happened. But being that age, I've stopped hanging around with my mates, and now a family member of mine has just come out of prison. I'm looking up to him now. I'm that age now where I get to speak to him on a level, and I'm hanging around with him all the time. And those were the 3 things that made me go down that road. So it was my mental health, breaking up with my community, my friends, my circle of people, and hanging around with the wrong people. Those were the 3 things. So what happened was, I'm 18, 19 now, and I start hanging around with this crowd of people who are selling drugs. They're making money, they dress smart, and they're smoking drugs themselves. And like, I'm looking at these people, and when you look at like your typical crackhead or addict, when you think of an addict, like, you think of someone like the movies on the streets begging, no clothes, no teeth. These people didn't have that. These people had money. These people had cars. These people had girls, all that type of stuff, And I discovered, like, slowly but surely, I'm discovering, like, from weed, I'm taking, I'm sniffing coke, I'm taking pills, I'm taking Valium to, like, suppress my ADHD and my OCD. And I started, like, selling drugs and stuff. I weren't a drug dealer. Like, let's not get it twisted. Like, I didn't ever make a penny. I couldn't. I can't sell drugs. I'm hopeless. But I became like a runner, So I'd hang around with them all day, every day, and go down a shop call, run this to him, and I'd run with like a bag of drugs, run over to the bus stop, get the money, come back. I'd take a tenner from that. I'm thinking I'm fucking the dog's bollocks, And I remember, like, I'll set the scene for you. I'd go into a house where I'd be chilling on a daily basis. The person whose house it is, he sells drugs, but it's a front, His house is lovely, his missus works, but he is a drug dealer. You go in the kitchen where everyone's chilling, there's music playing, there's a bowl full of cannabis, weed, big buds of weed, help yourself. There's a bowl of cocaine, and there's a bowl of heroin. So they're weighing up the weed, like they're weighing up the heroin and crack, but you can help yourself to weed. What these people were doing, they were smoking heroin in spliffs. Basically, I was running around selling heroin and crack. I was being a runner for crack and heroin. I, there'd be a Friday night, I'd be there, and I'd be sniffing coke and whatever. And one time, basically, what happened was, all the lads there, the people who were there, were smoking crack. And I ended up taking it. Now, before I go into this, right, people are like, how are you smoking? What, you just randomly smoke crack? No. You will be surprised, probably in every area in the UK, but especially in Cardiff, there's a lot of people who smoke crack like it's normal. Just like it's nothing. Like, believe it or not, like, a lot of legit working people smoke crack. It's mad.
It's not something which people talk about or people expect, no. Is it? Like, everyone kind of is accepted these days. Everyone kind of, or a lot of people smoke weed for various reasons. Like, I wish I could smoke weed now because of the amount of pain.
I wish I could smoke weed,
but I can't because it messes with my head.
People for years used to say, why didn't you just quit, man? Why don't you just smoke a draw? I fucking wish I could. I'm so paranoid and anxious off it. But it's horrific.
Yeah, it's horrible, mate. And like, I use like CBD oils now for my pain and that, and my anxiety and sleeping, and it's proper. But like, because I smoke cigarettes, like I wish I could still smoke weed now because that would help. Like they would help me, like, but it doesn't, so I don't. But
Yeah.
like, it's just one of them things. Like, it's really interesting to me. Like, you said that because I think when you hear crack and heroin, people automatically you think
It's
of
the
people.
end of the world.
Yeah, like it's like people have like they've lost everything already. They're homeless. They've got dirty clothes on, holes in their shoes, whatever it may be. But like that's not always the case.
Well, I'm 12 years. I smoked heroin and crack every day. Didn't inject. I smoked. So
Yeah.
therefore, I should have really bad teeth. These are they're a bit like I shouldn't show the camera actually, but by there they're kind of like starting to like the gums are recede. But these are all my teeth. They're not the whitest, but they're the same teeth. Like I looked after my teeth, so like I typically didn't look like a. If you look back at photos and mug shots and stuff like that, and you actually see how bad I was then you'd see I was a druggie. But like I'd have I had a collection of international Barber Internationals. I had the Ralphies. I was always dressed smart, and like I'll go into this a bit later as well of why that enabled me in a way. But like your typical drug dealer, like the stereotypical, it's like when you think of an alien, the aliens are coming, you think of a little grey alien from Hollywood. Probably won't, that's not what an alien would look like, probably, but we're indoctrinated to think these things. And there's people out there, normal people who are medicated methadone or morphine. Doesn't mean you're a smackhead, like in terms, I don't like saying that word, but it doesn't mean that, and you just give the perfect example with the CBD, like so like, yeah, I was hanging around with these people, and I ended up smoking crack one day. I was drinking all day, and then I started, like, they decided to like have a pipe, so they had a can of, I remember, never forget, a can of Stella, and they were putting the crack on, and they were smoking it, and one of them offered me some, and I was like, no, like, I'm thinking I'm gonna die if I have it. Like, let's be fair, like, what we're saying here about people thinking this is the end of the world. I thought it was as well. I thought if I'll puff this now and I'll become a raging crackhead and lose all my teeth straight away, but it's not like that. So I was a bit optimistic, but I ended up doing it, and it was a crazy feeling. At the first time, I didn't know what I was looking for, so I was like, is that it? I don't even think I inhaled it properly. I was probably too scared. So then when I actually plucked up the courage to do it, it was like, wow, this is fucking amazing. But maybe it was it weren't a good thing because it made me go to the other stuff. But straight away, I started to feel like very agitated. Like the rush was great, but when I was coming down, I started feeling very agitated. I was pacing. I was like tapping things. My OCD went through the roof because it's a stimulant. It magnifies, you know. So I was like that, and then straight away, someone goes to me, "You want to have a puff of this?" And he tried giving me a spliff, and I went, "No, I can't smoke weed. It'll make me 10 times worse." Because at this time, I'm paranoid when I smoke weed. He went, "No, it's got a bit of heroin in it." I went, "I ain't taking it." He went, "Trust me." He said, "Have a puff of this, yeah, and it'll go away." And I said, "I'll be addicted." And he went, "Listen, before I do say it, right, I just want to let people know, like, I don't blame no one for why I got on drugs. Nobody forced any drugs down my throat. I knew what heroin and crack was at the age of 5. You just know what drugs are, and kids don't do. Do you drugs.
Think, like, to be clear, at that point you could have said no?
Yeah, of course I could have. Yeah, of course. Yeah, but I was like literally helpless at this moment. I was like, like, and there was no turning.
Everything was in overdrive, mate.
Yeah, exactly. And his words were, "Listen, you're not gonna get addicted to this, mate. You've got to smoke it on foil for about a week every single day before you get physically addicted. So it's okay." So I was like, okay, and so I, puffing it like that, and as soon as I inhaled it, I must have puffed it like 2-3 times and probably didn't inhale it. But the time I did, as soon as I inhaled it, it was like, wow, just everything just, and I have never taken something so instantly, like, fix all your problems, and I was like, whoa, my God, this is amazing. And I forgot the rest of that night what happened, not because you don't know where you are. It's just there was no worry after that. And I always say I says it all the time, like, you know, I never got physically addicted to heroin at that moment, but it did have me, like,
mentally,
me because, you know, I'm looking like for the next time. Like, I'm not addicted, but I'm definitely going to try that buzz again. Whether it's in 20 years, 10 years, I'll always have like a date. I'm going to do it again. So I was doing that then. I was like every other month, I'd have a blowout. Then every month, then every 2 weeks, every week, and then it eventually came to, because I was working like even though like on the weekends and in the week, like after work, I'd go and chill at this place and like act like I was this big hard man to keep up an image because I had no friends anymore. I still like worked in places. I worked in like for agencies. I worked behind bars. I worked in Argos, Christmas temp jobs. I worked in the Plymouth Arms and the San Martin in the kitchens. Everyone who ever, when I worked, they'd even be horrified if they know I worked in the kitchens now, but I did. But like it ended up becoming something I'd live for type of thing.
Yeah.
And then,
was all
you know,
your money going on that then at that point, or was it more?
so yeah, like I'd have a
waiting for
blowout,
it?
like, you know, like I'd have a blowout. So I put money aside at that time. Like I was probably your most sensible addict at that time, because that day, it's not for my trainers, that's for my heroin. And that's what it was, like, you know, for a long time. I'd say about a year, I literally danced with the devil with a year until it actually got me. And like that, I'll never forget the time where I knew I was addicted this time, because I got sacked from my job. Did I get sacked from my job, or did I wake up for work? No, I was like that on my job, and I basically didn't go in for a day, and then the next day I was going to go into work, and I woke up, and I just remember, because I was smoking it for like 3-4 days in a row, and I was waiting every day, waking up, okay, I'm okay. I'll do it another day, and then I'm waking up, oh, I'm feeling okay. I'll never forget the day I woke up and actually felt like I was clucking, and then when I went to work, I just started sweating, I just didn't feel myself. I shat myself, and that's when I realized I had a habit. And I rushed back and scored. And when I told my family member, like, listen, I've got a habit, he went, yeah, well, what do you expect? And I'm like, instead of expecting them to say, oh, what do you expect? You're smoking heroin, mate. You're an adult, you know, and that was the start of a fucking mad life.
So at this point, did you, like, your mum and your dad and your brothers, your brother, like, they know that you're kind of going down that route?
So
they sort of, because you were still working, so obviously you've held down a job at you know, for that point. So like, maybe from the outside looking in terms of other people, like, they, you know, you're still working and stuff, but when you stop working, that's when I guess questions get asked, don't they?
Yeah. And I knew, and I got a mad one, I'll tell you a bit later on, but about working and pretending I'm working and stuff. But yeah, like, you know, like I tried to blend it, but they knew something was up. I don't think they knew it was that deep, but they knew something was up, because I come from the like I said, the local area. They know I'm not hanging around with the boys no more. They're asking why I go into the pub. My mum and dad go down like they'll drink. They used to drink up the Radar, or they'd be down the Fairwater, or, you know, the social club, and people talk and people say, you know, I heard Cullen's hanging around with so and so, and, you know, but they don't want to believe it at the time. Do you know what I mean? But I remember the time there was kind of like an intervention where they came back from a weekend, like a night out on the weekend, and like they're fucking what the fuck's going on with you? Fucking, they're telling me it's like there was a big intervention I had the one time, but like, you know, what can they do? You know?
No, that's it. It's and the thing is, until you're ready to do something about it, it'll never work. It'll never work. Whether it's an intervention or going to rehab or whatever it may be, like, it can be anything. Mental health, it could be addiction, it could be anything. If you're not ready, if you haven't hit and like I see a lot of people say, it's like you've got to hit rock bottom to be able to to be ready. But I
But
think
everyone's rock bottom's different.
Yeah, of course it is. Like,
And like I used to say to myself, it's hard to find when you're ready, because like I'd go to jail and I'd be like, I can't do this no more, I'm ready. But I weren't ready. Like like you don't know when you're ready. You think because your mum and dad are fucking distraught and your missus is breaking up with you, oh, I'm ready now, but you're not ready. It's like you'll know when you're ready deep down. You won't ask yourself, I'm ready. You'll just know. And like there's so many things my mum and dad tried to do. Like I remember when I finally admitted I was on heroin, it was like a dream, because I thought I would have been disowned, but I weren't, and like they tried to like help talk about it, but for years, for years and years and years, it was like I was going to tell you just then as well about it. Like when you were talking earlier on, you were saying when I was younger, I was smoking weed. It's mad because a lot of the people I grew up with who were proper hardcore weed smokers at the age of 14 and on the knock, and I was thinking these fucking kids are going to be fucking bums when they're older. But they're the ones who are doing really well. And I like, you know, I always say it, Si, you know, it don't matter about your upbringing. Okay, it has an effect on you, I get it. But it don't matter about, you know, you can't use that as an excuse to get somewhere in life, because, you know, when I grew up, I had everything. I had the best trainers or whatever they could afford. My family, they put it on me, you know. And some of my mates, we'd go a town to the cinema, and I'd have a £10 note and they'd have nothing, you know. They'd have to nick their popcorn or, you know, and they're now amazing. And I'm the one who's, you know, I used to say to myself, like, what the fuck? Like, oh, but it's because I didn't learn how to fend for myself in a way. Maybe my family enabled me in a way, because, you know, I had everything I ever wanted, you know, and yeah, it's a mad one, you know. So when what we were going back to, and I goes off on tangents. No, but like that's what I'm saying. So it don't really matter about like your upbringing type of thing, because I had everything I ever wanted, but I still went to
decision making, isn't it? It's like it's just those decisions, and like I just think I said to you, like part of it is luck, like in terms of making that bad decision at the worst possible time, making a good decision at the right time, but you don't know that until 20 years later. But like it's one of those things which is it's a bit of a head fuck, to be honest, because you don't realize until it's too late. But like what I kind of wanted to ask you then was like so you lost your job, like when did it go? Did you try and get like more
another
work
job
then, or did you kind of like turn to other means to fund it? Like basically I suppose I'm asking is like at the start, like you said, they weren't what you would perceive as stereotypical, like crackheads, if you like, but like people who were smoking heroin and crack and stuff. It wasn't stereotypical.
But when did it turn to the stereotypical?
Yeah, like for that next year, you were still working and doing it. So you're not at what we'd call the stereotypical. You're holding down a job. When did that go the other way for you?
So I put it in like my addiction. It was about 11, 12 years, but I put it in two categories: the first 5 years and the second 5 years. So the first 5 years was horrible, because I'm having to lie to people, try and hold up an image that I'm not a smoker. There's rumors going around the whole of the city that I'm Cullan Mais is a heroin addict, because not just like in Fairwater, but I used to be an MC. I was a grime MC, and grime was massive at my age, and I was a very good grime MC. And you know, we'd beef Ely boys, like we'd send songs to each other, and the whole of Cardiff knew about me, and they'd watch our videos, and people are hearing, oh, that Cullan Mais is a fucking heroin addict, you know. And so for the first 5 years it was horrible, because I was like trying to hide stuff and, you know, make out like that I weren't a drug addict, you know. I didn't want to admit I was myself. Also, the other reason why it was bad was because this is the first time in my whole life that my mother and father now they know I'm an addict, and like, you know, I always had what I wanted. So for the first time in my life now, I'm literally out on my own, because then they're not giving me the pocket monies and this and that anymore, because they know what's going on drugs. So how am I going to start making money? How am I going to start fending for myself? And that was when, if anyone ever says that, like, people who don't know that I've changed, or even like the last year when people will say, oh, that Cullan Mais, the only time people will ever say that was probably for the things I'd done in the first 5 years, which would be I'd rob you, like I'd steal from you, I'd blag off you, and I was just a horrible man, like, you know, done some horrific things. And also in that time as well, my mother and father tried to do everything to get me clean. My father took me to London, to Belgravia Centre. He was like, right, we're going to get you clean. And like, this is what happened the first time. So as soon as I got addicted to heroin, I didn't know how to deal with anything. I didn't know how to come off it. Like, I used heroin, you know, I took it them first few times to tackle my OCD, my anxiety, my ADHD, to level me out, and it worked a treat. Yeah. So once you're addicted to heroin, like, there's nothing really stronger than that. So you're always looking for something in life that'll never fill that gap. So I went and self-referred myself to get a methadone script, because I thought, oh, well, if I'm on a methadone script, tell my mum and dad I'm clean, but I can still have a buzz, and if I really want to, I can still use on top. So I went and self-referred myself to go on a methadone script, and I remember realizing it was a stupid idea, because even my uncle, who I said was a drug addict, he was a really bad heroin user, but he always disagreed with methadone, saying it's 10 times worse, harder to get off. If you go on now, you're an idiot. Yeah. So even like, he was like, what the fuck are you doing? And my mum and dad were like, oh my God, this is, what do you mean you're on methadone? No. So there was like times at that time where my mum and dad didn't know much about it. There was times where like my mother and like people would say, oh, because it was my father's brother, he got Cullan on drugs. He got Cullan on drugs. He never, not at all. So it was like a mad, like, you know, it's like, I suppose not like this serious, but you know, like probably when someone's part of a family, in an Asian family or a Muslim community, and he comes out gay, it's quite shocking. You don't want to believe it, you know. It's like hard to live with, maybe, you know. That's kind of what it was then, and like, it was just a frenzy. So there was things my mum and dad tried to do. They tried locking me away. I remember they sent me up to Northampton, to a town called Kettering Town, where my grandma, fucking crazy place. You got Kettering, Corby. So basically, my grandmother, on my father's side, my grandmother's Scottish, and in Northamptonshire, there's a town called Corby. They call it Little Scotland. It's basically a town full of Scottish people who moved there in the 50s because it was a steel town, and it's just rough as fuck. And it was probably the worst place to go, like, to get clean. Like, the first 5 minutes I was there, I was scoring drugs. You know, but they tried everything, you know, love them, and you know, took me on holidays to do deep rattles and stuff. As soon as I got back home, I was scoring. And I'll never forget, my dad said, right, listen, so they've been on the internet looking for things to like help me, you know, like putting me in comas for 5 days to do my detox and get me clean. Looking back now, they don't realize that it don't matter what they do to get you clean. I can easily go back to it.
At that point, you were always going to go back to it. Because you weren't.
Yeah,
you would have been getting clean for them, not for yourself.
Exactly, like we just said, didn't it? So at the time, I'm just doing it to keep them happy, and like he took me to London, to the Belgravia Centre, or the Stapleford Centre in Belgravia, which does all the hair transplants and stuff, because there was something called Naltrexone, which is a blocker. It's basically like the pregnancy rods girls have. But it's a blocker for opiates. And this is going back in like 2010, 2011. And, you know, this is like groundbreaking, and it's a lot of money. You have to put a deposit down. And
oh, your sound's gone, mate. Did someone try and phone you?
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, it's back now. Right, it goes off, Just go back.
So, I was going to this Belgravia Centre, and you had to put a deposit down, and also you had to be 5 days clean of heroin to have the injection. So basically, I've got to really just detox, do a cluck, and then go on this thing. And I weren't ready to do that. And we went to London. We stayed over in the Eccleston Hotel. He paid a lot of money for that. And he was really proud. He thought like this was it. And I'll never forget, he took me to Harvey Nicks. He took me to Harrods. He took me to all these fucking places and bought me clothes and stuff like that because he thought his son was getting clean. And when we got there, they said, "Sorry, Mr. Mace, but your son's still got heroin in his system. You can't have the injection." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "I don't know what they're on about, Dad." But like, you know, I was smoking heroin in the Eccleston Hotel the night before. Like, do you know what I mean? It's horrific things I was doing. And, you know, it was a horrible drive home. My dad lost a deposit. And then...
I bet he was devastated as well.
Yeah,
like,
there was loads
you know
like
what I mean?
that.
Just like...
Devastated.
So,
and loads like that happened, you know?
Because he would have thought that was... Because it's groundbreaking as well. It's not like you're run-of-the-mill rehab, and I would imagine, and you correct me obviously if I'm wrong, but like I would imagine like he's pinning all his hopes on that. He thinks this is it. It's groundbreaking. It's new. It's not the normal thing. And like you're an addict. You did what an addict does, which is they find a way to do what they're addicted to.
So that's it, you know. And you know, during that time as well is then when I discovered I was good with my words, and this is when I was also, I'll just jump in as well briefly. Any relationship I was in at them times, I was poisonous. I was getting my ex-partners on drugs and stuff, and I was living in Morganstown at the time in your flat, and what I used to do was I used to get on the train and I'd go to the Uni South Wales, Treforest, which was only 2 stops away, and I'd pretend I was a uni student from the atrium, and I've lost my ticket to get home to Cardiff Halls, and I used to blag people for money. Basically, and I found out I was pretty good at it, and then what actually I used to do then was I was making like £200 a day. Like I'd make at least a £50 and then go home. So I was making a lot of money, and I started going to Bath, Cheltenham, Bristol, Newport, Brecon, and I'd go to all these towns and pretend I was stuck there. And I'd have a camera on my neck. I'd have my phone, which was dead. I'd have like, you know, sometimes I had fake ID, like a student card I'd stolen off someone, and I'd done this, and this, you know, during this time, I look back, which is crazy, but I never went to jail for any of these things because, like, you know, so I was, but that was like the maddest time of like desperation and like that begging, that is basically.
Do you ever have had days though, mate, where it didn't come off, or did it always? Every day would always come off.
Every day would come off, every day, but I'd have days in those days where I'd ask the same person, or someone would come up to me and say, "You asked me the other day, stuck again, are you?" Or I'd even get, listen to this. This is what I mean. Like I thought I was clever, and it did work, 100% it did, you know. But you know, Wales is a small place, and if I was going, you know, if I weren't going to Bath at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'd probably have to go to Treforest where I've been there 2 days in a row. Do you know what I mean? And at the time, we were at the old Cardiff bus station, and there was an actual newspaper article of me and my ex-partner, and it was I'll never forget it. It was like, and this is interesting because this will go and tell you how mad the story is, right? So basically, when I used to do Cardiff train station with the buses, you had the old bus station, so you could easily like dodge through all the shelters if like security came in there. And basically, there was a newspaper article. Watch out for these 2 people, well-spoken, well-dressed people, blagging people for money. They've been doing it for a couple of months, and they're pulling it off. It was a person who was from the valleys, who worked in town, who seen me every night on their commute home. They're the ones who reported and put their little speech in the paper. And transport police caught me once or twice coming from Taffswell, to Fairwater, to town, and they intercepted me and say, "We know what you're doing," and all that. So the police used to always come and like get me.
Try and get you before you get there.
Yes. So there was times when that happened, and very embarrassing. One time, I was on Cardiff Spotted. You know, like you have like the Spotted Cardiff and all that. I was on Cardiff Spotted. Watch this man, he begs for money, and it was me with a beanie hat on, like looking nuts and that. But like that was my way of making money, and I didn't want to commit crimes. I weren't getting done by the police for it, and I was making good money. And where I was on heroin and I was a painkiller, I put up with the people saying I was this and that because I didn't care. So that was like the worst time. And then
I was going to ask you a quick question then, mate. Yeah. So what I was going to ask you is, like, obviously we talked about the fact you had like a good upbringing, good family which loved you, all that sort of stuff. And what you just mentioned there, like you were doing all the kind of essentially begging to get your fix, to get your money for your fix. But you also mentioned something really interesting to me, is that you didn't want to commit crime to feed your habit, which I think speaks massively to like the way you were brought up, your family, your mum and dad, and that, and your brothers. Whereby even though you were addicted, you were essentially, you needed money desperately to buy heroin. You still at that point weren't really willing to go again what people would class as like the stereotypical route of mugging people or robbing people or breaking into houses or whatever it may be, that people stereotypically associate with them, with like being addicted to heroin and stuff like that. And I find that really interesting, mate, because obviously like you end up in prison at a certain point. So like at that point, would you say that you would like you didn't want to commit crimes, or was it that you just found that this was an easier way to make money without really having to push it?
I never ever wanted to go to prison. I was scared of prison. I'm not a fighter, you know. I'm not that guy. Like I'm a big lad. I'll fight my battles. I've naturally seen horrible things and done horrible things, but I never thought I'd want to go to prison ever. And also, it's morals as well, like you said. Even when I've done the worst things I've done, I still had like a moral code when it came to committing crime. Like like burgling houses and stuff like that is a big no-no to me. It seems that in this day and age now, people kind of like think that's a normal thing, but growing up, if someone burgled someone's house, that's a forbidden. Like you go into someone's house,
invading.
I find that like
the family home.
I find that very like on the same level of like violating a person's like like rape and stuff. That's the level I put it on. Intruding and like dwellings and stuff. I don't like that stuff. I imagine my nan on her own and someone coming in the house is like I just couldn't imagine it. So, there was things like that which I just thought no, 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 no. And there was one time when like I did get done for a shoplift, and the shop was I went round the back of the shop to go the back way to get all the alcohol out of the back way. Someone actually who was working in the co-op, he was working with me. He was an aerial manager, and he used to ring me and say, "I'm in this co-op today," and he used to open the back door for me. Like, and I got done for a commercial burglary, it's called, because I'm trespassing, but it's still in the shop, and the shop's open. Because I didn't go the entrance, I went round the back. It was classed as a commercial burg, and I was really horrified about that and thinking, "Oh my god, do you see what I mean?" So, and this is even when I've started committing crimes. So, and it was also that justification as well. Like I was gonna, like I will get onto maybe another time, but like, dressing smart and I didn't want to get clean, and I used to use that as a reason. It was the same with not committing a crime. I'm okay. I've got a roof over my head. I still got a teeth in my mouth. I've got a girlfriend. You know, I'm not committing crimes, so I can smoke heroin. Do you see what I mean? It was all justification as well. It was a mixture of things. It's not just one sole purpose, I think, or one reason. So, that's the answer to that. It was crazy. But like the turning point to committing crimes was got with another girl called Jodie. I'll say her name. She knows I've spoken about her before. Lovely girl. Um, and she was a driver. She had her car and she used to like pick me up, and that's when I discovered committing crimes that I thought I could get away with. You know, yeah. So obviously, I met this girl, and she was a lovely girl from the valleys, the lovely town I met at Tidville. Fuck you know. And yeah, we got together, and you know, going back quickly about like did you want to commit a crime? It weren't just not that. It was just like it was also it was easy to make, and even when I started doing the crimes I was committing, which led me to go to prison. Even again, my uncle, who was on drugs, who was angry about me going on the methadone, he was angry that I was committing crimes because he said, "Go back to what you're doing. Go back to your blagging. Go to Bath City and just like you're not hurting anyone. You're not committing crimes. You're gonna go to jail if you get caught doing these. It's inevitable." Do you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
was mad. Like it was mad. It was like
Do you think that
he was trying to be a good uncle, but at the same time, like he were. Do you know what I mean? It was mad.
doing this similar stuff like it's do you think I forgot what I was going to say. Like it's almost like you were split between because when you're addicted to anything, you're always going to justify the reason. You'll always find the reasons to do it, always. But like it almost feels like at that point you were like caught in between these two sort of things where you needed money to buy heroin, but you don't quite want to go maybe the route that other people have gone around the UK and the world, whereby they get to a certain point and it's just like, fuck this, I need money. I will do absolutely anything I
I
can
will sell
to
my
get
body.
that money. Yeah, sell my body. I will hurt people. I will do all that. Like, you almost feel like you were caught between doing the two. I know, like you said, like you never want to hurt someone, and that was like you still had that moral code in terms of there was certain things you would not do, but it does feel like but even then there was a battle between I need money to buy heroin,
Yeah.
I can't go to work. What am I going to do?
Well, yeah, it was still the same. I was still in that mindset at that first part of my life where, I was trying to justify, and try and hide things. And if I go to prison, then that's it. I am like, it was always like, you can do this, do that, do that. But the moment you go to prison, your life's over. And like, as well, I thought my life was over from the moment I took drugs. I ripped my life off. I never thought I'd ever get clean. And in the back of your head, you think one day it will, but you don't put anything into action to get
Don't
clean.
believe it.
Yeah, and like, yeah, like definitely what you're saying is right. Like, because even like at the end, when like I've been to prison, I'm in and out, I'm a prolific offender. I still had justification. Yeah, well, I'm just a shoplifter. What? I don't steal off little boutiques and places like personal owned businesses. I'm stealing from Tesco's and John Lewis and House of Fraser. I'm stealing off big businesses who tax everyone. Like I'm trying to justify it in
Yeah.
my head that what I'm doing is good for the society. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like
I do. Yeah. What about
everyone.
I got two questions, and not the nicest of questions, but I'm gonna ask it, mate, just because
I like it.
that's what we're here for. So the first one is, do you ever do anything violent to get money?
Yeah,
And the second question is,
yeah, I have.
what was you don't have to like go into any detail, mate. At the end of the day, it's your story and your words. But I'm just trying to like ask the difficult questions, I guess, as well as sort of move us through your story. Like, what's the worst thing that you've done looking back, and also like at the time, how do you justify it, and then how do you look back on it now?
Two things. Number one, the most cringiest of things I feel I've done was I'd blag people, lie to people, and take money from them during that time of stealing from students and naive young girls, probably the same age as me, but young naive students. Offer me back to their house. Ended up getting to know them. Like there was girls I actually like kind of dated, pretended I was a student in another uni. And I think like the worst thing I ever done in that sense was basically sleep with them, wake up early, take their phone and scour around their room and fuck off. I think that was like the worst thing I'd done. I learned the hard way with that one because I actually stole off a girl who was vulnerable in the head as well. I think I only found out later. But I slept with this girl, woke up in the morning, and my mate said she's got the new Sony whatever phone it was at the time. I stole her phone. I went out, sold it in cash gen or whatever. Comes back to the flat later on that day where the police have been looking for me. She's gone to the police and have said I raped her because I stole her phone. Been arrested for it. Um, whilst I'm in there, I'm being swabbed. I'm being like, the
The full
you
whack.
know, yeah, like I'm feeling violated. They're swabbing me, and I'm telling them, listen, I slept with a girl. Like I did sleep with her. Like it was consent. Like I don't know why you're checking if there's intercourse because we did. Then I'm being interviewed, and the officers are just saying to me, "Listen, why have you stolen this girl's phone? We know she's vulnerable. Like we know she's lying about being raped. It's ridiculous. She's actually from. She was from I think she was from like Derby, something like that. She's gone from town to town making these mad accusations anyway. Um, but look what you're doing, mate. Like and I had no further action on the accusation she gave me, but I still had a big scare there because I
Well,
like
mate,
it easily happened.
with the thing is though, mate, right? Is like with that type of accusation, and because you had slept with her, like if you had, I don't know how you word it, like, but like it could have gone really badly for you there. And I get the situation and the thing that you did was horrible, and I get all that. But like again, like we talked earlier about like those kind of sliding doors moments, you could have been in jail for something you didn't do.
100%. And you know what's mad? When I like obviously I work for a company now who are amazing, and you get DBS checked and all that anyway. My DBS is clean, like but like I look back sometimes and I think, oh my god, how like can you imagine if the police believed it or imagine she was just a normal girl, like someone like this girl's
Who had,
renowned.
yeah,
This girl's renowned for saying she's being raped, basically.
yeah,
That ones who lie. So can you imagine if it was a normal one? I like, and she just had an angry moment. It like could have went sour for me. And
yeah,
this is when I was young. This was like, I was,
mm,
this is early, but like, and I think the girl was older than me actually. But it's just like, what the fuck? And that was like so like them type of things were the worst things I learned at the young age. And then the other thing which I because I justified them as well. Like I'm not robbing them. I'm not street robbing them, holding them up with a knife. I'm gently being an opportunist in a way.
yeah,
Is what I was. I was an opportunist at that time. And then the things I also done, which was horrible, which I justified, was rob drug dealers. So people who were selling drugs, runners and stuff, I'd rob them. Uh, you know, I weren't one to carry a knife, although I did uh, take a knife with me to one drug meet before and put it up to someone to steal the drugs. And there's been once or twice where I've actually there's two or three of us and we've beat one of them up. And one time I put someone in a headlock and choked him out to take the drugs. But they're things I've never really like spoke about and been proud of because I'm not that guy, but justifying it because they're selling drugs, like, and they're not going to go to the police to say they had their drugs stole off them, and
no, of
they're
course,
the things, they're the things which I'm not proud of, and we're quite sad. And do you know what? I actually feel mad because I've never really like gone in about that to anyone before.
Mm.
Like my family and my
Sorry,
friends
mate.
know. Like,
Yeah.
all my family and friends know. Like, yeah, do you remember when that girl tried getting me done? Like, everyone knows.
Yeah, of course.
But like, I've never gone on and said this. Like, so. Whew.
Yeah, I think, look, it's part of the story, mate. It's part of what happened to you, and like we're also, and look, this is like it's heavy shit, you know. But this you've lived through this, right? And like what we're gonna do is we're gonna go eventually to the bit where like you turn it all around and you move through the positives, mate, because that's what you've done, and I think that's what you need to remember. Like when you think about those dark times, is yes, we're talking about them now, but remember the reason we're here now is to tell your story, to talk about the positives as well, and the journey back up. Like you're helping people by talking about it, and I know that it's painful, and I know that you probably, and I'm guessing, mate, but I'm assuming like you feel shame and regret about some of the stuff which you've done when like you were you're addicted to heroin and you're doing this stuff. Of course, you look back and you're ashamed and you're upset by it. You wouldn't be human if you didn't. But like, there's also that doesn't make it who you are. It just it's almost like circumstances of the situation, and that's not to excuse what you've done, by the way, because you did it. Like you've openly said, like you did these things, but it's also like the power of addiction, mate, is debilitating in the fact that it makes you do things that you would never dream of doing.
If you ask me, like, listen, like, I've never really gone in about that, like, and I feel like relief in a way that I've done it, like, and it's fucking horrible to think what I've done, but some of the things I've seen as well, and like, I found when I was in them times before going to prison, like I said, these were the worst times. Like, I found a man, um, basically flattened on the concrete outside the Kingsway building by the Hilton Hotel. He jumped off the Kingsway building. I found his dead body, and it's like these things stick with you, but like
Oh fucking hell,
you
yeah.
try to put him away. Yeah, yeah, it was fucking mad, mate. It was fucking mad, and I actually thought that he just got beat up really bad, and there was just blood everywhere trailing from his head. His face was flat on the floor.
Mm.
It was only the next day. I was wanted by the police at the time, and I was with a student girl who just helped me get money, and she checked his pulse, and there was no pulse, and then she was like, "He's dead." I kind of freaked out, and the students behind us was like, "Oh, turn him over." And as they turned his body over, I ran away because I
Yeah.
didn't see his face because I knew there was nothing left. Like his face
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
it weren't like that. It was planted. It was just nothing you
Oh,
could see. It was flat. And I just ran to the Hilton Hotel reception at the steps and said, "Listen, there's a dead body over there," and just ran away.
yeah.
Um, and it was only the next day I looked on Wales. I got my dad to look on Wales online if anything happened in town, and a 54-year-old man, I think he was 54, plunged to his death off the jumped off the building. So, you know,
Jesus.
that was mad. There was times these people. So I've had like 3 people I know who I have used drugs with, who I have been close to, who have died, and and 2 of them I was one of the last people they seen. Uh, one of them, um, one of them, God rest his soul, Yucca. Um, he was asking me for a place to stay in Fairwater, asking me for a place to stay because the flat he was staying in, he was getting paid at like, you know, the thing with addicts, when you're in addiction, your payday is 12 o'clock at night. It's not like normal people where they wake up in the morning at 9, 10 and you've been paid. Like payday is 1 minute past 12 and I'll get my, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he's like, "Oh, I get paid at midnight. I get paid, and I don't want to be sat in the flat with all these these people who were there as well because they were going to bully him for his money. So he wanted to stay with me. And I said, I'm going to town to make money. So he said, no, I'll come with you. I'll come with you, please. Because he knew I knew a lot of people in the area, just random flats and that. And he stuck by me. He came with me. And then we went back to this flat up in Honeysuckle, Lavender Grove. And I introduced him to a lady to stay. We had a great night. You know, they got on. He was fine to stay there. He said he had a great night. I then went upstairs to see this other girl who was downstairs. We went up there. Thought he'd be fine there. They got on like a house on fire. Um, uh, I'm at the girl's house upstairs now for about half hour. The door starts knocking. I'm like, oh, who's that? It's Carl. Cullen, it's Carl. Cullen, open the door. Fucking hell. Opens the door. Have you got any more drugs? No, I haven't. Yeah, you have. I know you have. You bought so and so. I was with you. No, I haven't. Fuck off. Shut the door. He's knocking the door again. Cullen, Cullen. He done it about 3 or 4 times. Eventually, I just said, sorry, love, I gotta go. I had to leave the girl's flat because I couldn't have him just knocking the door.
Yeah,
I
of course.
came out, I said, listen, mate, I'm not being funny. I've got you a place to stay, yeah? You've been with me all night. We've had a good night. I shared my fucking money and drugs with you. You've been paid now. It's gone 12. You've got your own money. Go and get your own shit. I haven't asked you for nothing. Fuck off, you know? Started getting a bit heated and I started, like, you know, whatever. And then what happened was I just said, I'm going now. So I said to her, to the girl, I said, go back in that girl's flat. I've got you a place. Just go in there. Go on. And as I'm walking home, he's following me outside the door. He's like, come on, let's have a fight. He used to be a black belt in karate, and he's doing all this stuff. And I just said, fuck off. Go on. Fuck off. I give him a little, like,
Yeah.
you know, didn't hit him, like, and he was like, oh, I went, yeah, exactly. Fuck off, you little weirdo. And he just, like, walked away, straggled along back to the block door, and I went home. The next day, I get a phone call off Kevin, another user in the area, and he said, "Have you heard about Yucca?" And I'm like, "What?" I said, "Don't start." He said he was being an idiot last night. I got him a place to stay. He went, "Yeah, he's at Nicola's house. He died. They found him dead this morning." I said, "What?"
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So like the last time I seen him, like I'm being not horrible, but I'm telling him to fuck off,
Yeah. I
and he's
leave you
dead.
alone. Sort of thing.
Yeah, they said they found him black and blue, and when they said that, I thought they meant he got beat up, but I think he was just cold. Apparently, it was a bit weird to me, but apparently, he went and got his money, the money he was on about at like 12 o'clock at night or whatever, and
Mm.
him and the girl he stayed with went and scored drugs, and apparently, he overdosed on a heroin overdose, I think, and that's what the toxicology report said. He overdosed off an injection, and he died. And like you know, there's a couple people I know who I was close with. You know, they're not my friends, but they
Jesus.
are in that world
Yeah.
because you know,
People you associated with, people you knew.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
and like,
whenever someone dies, regardless of like what situation you're in, if you know them or you've come across them, or particularly if you've come across them like in the days before they die, like it hits you, doesn't it? It hits you hard. And I think the situation you were in, obviously, it's a dangerous situation, isn't it? Whichever way you look at it, whether it's from crime, from other people, from. Did anyone ever, like anyone who you ever kind of stole from or got money from through, you know, uh, basically, getting their money off them or taking their money off them? Did you ever kind of come back across those people at a later date?
um, um, in what sense?
Well,
The
just in terms
blagging
of,
money or like stealing?
I mean, either or. Like I guess,
There was one girl, a student girl in Cardiff. She was a Chinese student. She gave me a £50 note. I was actually doing the tapping, and my mate was at the train station waiting for me. And he come over to me, and he was like, "How much did that girl give you?" And I showed him a £50 note, and he couldn't believe it. And he used to tell everyone, "Cullen's the biggest blagger I've met." He fucking, and I thought it was fucking clever. And then like a week later, I totally forgot about it. I took her number because I said I'd send her the details. And I heard someone calling me at Catay's train station, which was a bit further down the road. Hey, you. And she was saying, Richard, because I used to call myself Richard. Hey, Richard. I used to call myself Richard Felix. Now, Richard Felix was a spiritual medium of Most Haunted on Living TV. That he was the spiritual historian. I was a fan of fucking Most Haunted. So I used to call myself Richard Felix. Fucking random.
Crazy.
Richard. And I'm looking, I'm like, what the fuck's that? This Asian girl. Hey, you cheated me. She must have been watching me for half hour before she called me, begging for money off other people. I felt terrible about that, and she was like, I couldn't tell her to fuck off. And every time I was trying to walk away, she was following me, ringing her friends, and I felt really bad about that. That I, because at the time, like if I had the money, I would have gave it back.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to survive. I've been Northampton, been more of a karma really, but I was up there stealing off drug dealers and sleeping with fucking whoever, probably people's partners and that, and people knew I was this Welsh lad running riot in the town. I was jumped in a trap house, got the scars here. I was really beat up in a trap house. It was a setup basically. I was told to get drugs there. Two girls set me up, and I was beaten pretty bad there. My grandmother had to see that. I was ushered home because I couldn't see because my eye was split and blood everywhere. That I was ushered home by a stranger, thank God, who took me into the door, and my nan seen that. Yeah, like I've been attacked with all sorts of fucking weapons. So there's been comeuppances and stuff like that, 100%.
What about when was the first time you went to prison for like a proper stint?
Or September, no, August, tell a lie, because it was my year on my birthday. Do you want to know the first time? Because I know you're a Cardiff City fan, yeah? Do you want to know?
Yeah.
Cardiff City have just got promoted to the Premier League. I think it was 2012, 2013 season, or 2013, 2014, I think. One of them. 2013 it was. I managed to get tickets. My cousin Richard, his missus at the time, Lisa, used to work in the fucking ticket boxes, and she weren't going. I had 2 tickets to the Man City game where Fraser Campbell scored. We won 3-2, I think it was.
That
Yeah,
was the last game I went to.
I went to that game.
Yeah.
And then my missus loved it that much because she was a girl from the valleys. She loved it. We then went to the next home game, which was Everton with Robert Fellaini playing. We drew 0-0. Was it 0-0 or 2-2? We drew against Everton, so we were on a roll. And then I went to prison. So basically, I ran out of chances. So even though they were only shopliftings, eventually your lifelines run out. So you've had your probation, you've had your community service, you've had your tags, you've had your suspended sentences, and then basically I was wanted by the police. I was on a methadone script. If you miss 3 days of methadone in Wales, they kick you off a script, and you have to start again. So I weren't going to get my methadone because the police would be there because it's a police building, the Hoddle. So I stopped picking my methadone up, and I'm just funding on a habit. I'm shoplifting even more to fund the habit. And the police come to my house at like 4 in the morning to come and pick me up. And I go to prison for the first time ever. I'm then in prison clucking off heroin and methadone. I thought if I goes into the prison, they'll give me my meth, but they didn't. So I was clucking really
They
bad.
didn't give you no treatment for
No
heroin
treatment.
addiction at all.
No. And Welsh
So-
jails don't.
So, just because I just want to clarify, really, mate, more than anything. Like, so you went to prison for that first time. Like, I'm assuming that was going to be a scary experience because you'd already said a bit earlier on that going to prison was almost like a big fear of yours. Like, you didn't fancy that at all. But not only that, you had to go and do it.
Vulnerable.
Going through withdrawal, which is brutal. Like, I just want to give people who maybe who haven't been through a similar thing to you or haven't got experience with
Withdrawals.
withdrawals and opioid drugs. I want to say this very quickly. So for the damage to my back and my leg, I take strong opioids. I used to take morphine, but I take oxycodone now, which gets like really
What are you taking?
closely.
Are you taking MSTs or are you taking?
So I used to take MSTs, but now I take. They've changed the name of them. They're called Short Tech.
Very
the fast
strong.
action ones. Yeah. Well, mate, if I miss a dose or say we're out or something and I'm late taking a dose, like
You start
it can,
yawning.
oh, mate, yawning, sweating.
The eye.
It's horrific. And like
That
there's been
sounds quite like bland, don't it? Yawning.
Yeah,
It's like people
but-
don't realise like what it
like
when it's in the post. It's
a couple of years ago, there was when I was at my old doctor's. The doctor, there was like a cock up with the script, so I had to go. I'd run out of tablets on the Friday, and I wasn't able to get them until the Monday, so I had to go a whole weekend. And like, bear in mind, I've never taken one tablet more than I've been prescribed.
Never abused it.
Yeah, my body is addicted to it because I've had to take it since 2008 to be able to get out of bed. Now, when this weekend I had to go 2 days without my tablets.
This is
basically, mate.
interesting. This is
And
interesting.
Honestly, mate, right? I've been through a lot of shit, but that was one of the worst 2 days of my fucking life.
Well, I think we need to have a separate conversation maybe in the next one talking about that because I've always
100%, mate.
I've always worried about people who genuinely are taking it for health reasons.
Oh, I wish I could
I think
stop, mate. I really hate
self-inflicted.
it.
Do you ever worry about if
Oh,
the world came to a
100%,
stop, the world comes to a stop, or you can't pick up your script, and what the fuck you gonna do? Do you know what I
Well,
mean?
Yeah, and the worst thing you've got, mate, is the internet. So, like, I've read up before because I've thought, like, there's got to be an alternative to me taking these strong painkillers to get through the day because my body's addicted to it. Like, I've been taking them every day since 2008. It's now 2021. Like, and I just think, one, it's not good for you. Two, my body's addicted to it. Now, the worst thing you've got in the world is the internet, and so you read about
Yeah,
what happens if I stop taking these. Well, I've had a tiny experience of it at different times for like a very short period, and I can tell you the 2 days was horrifying, mate. Honestly,
Yeah.
and the reason I bring that up is because I want people to understand that like what I went through was very small, very very small compared to what you would have been through.
Yeah.
But I went through, and it's those drugs are so powerful, and when you just stop them, there's a reason why. If as a like a heroin addict or a cocaine addict or a morphine addict or someone, if you go to a doctor and you say I need to get clean, they won't just stop it because it's so much worse for you to just stop it than it is to just
Yeah.
even it down. But yeah, I just wanted
No.
to add that, mate.
No, I know. I appreciate that.
We're gonna stop it there for part one. But the reason why we're just for the people, the reason I'm gonna break this into two parts is one, like Cullen has got such an interesting and
We're just getting started.
there's so much to go. And what I didn't want to do is I don't want to rush through it and then not focus on so much of the positives coming out the other side because I know that it's quite heavy stuff. It's quite dark in points, and like you're talking about stuff which you're not proud of, stuff which you've been through, stuff which is has upset people, hurt people, whatever it may be. And like I also want to get the other side of that coming out, and the light and the
Definitely.
brightness of it, mate. So that was part one, episode one, and we will 100%. It might even be tomorrow night that you'll get part two, but we'll see how it goes. But Cullen, Mace, it's been a pleasure, my friend. And,
Listen, thank you so much, Si. It's been almost therapeutic, It's there's been times where I've said things like I never thought I'd probably keep to myself, just for simply not hiding, just keeping things. I've let them out, and I feel quite happy I have. So, it's a pleasure, and I can't wait to to speak again.
Mate, we'll do part two, and we'll dig even deeper, mate. We'll have even deeper. You'll have nothing left to let out of the world.
No, I know.
It'll be good, mate. But it's therapeutic, mate. It is. I
Yeah.
gotta say.
No, it is.
But we'll continue. But for the people, we'll see you next time.
I got tons of soul, I'm a true collectible. Famous, also famous, number one, desirable. I do what I want, when I want, and how I want it. Leave you with the one in the air, that's how I roll. I got tons of soul, I'm a true collectible. Famous, also famous, number one, desirable. I do what I want, when I want, and how I want it. Leave you with the one in the air, that's how I roll. I got t-shirts, so I don't care about no gold. Better, so much better, flipping incredible. Always on the show, so they know that I still got it. And I never feel sorry, yeah, top of the world. Top of the world.